You're listening to Impolite Society with Laura and Rachel.
It's Laura and Rachel. We're back in your ear bones. Laura and Rachel. We're back. Laura and Rachel. That's all I prepared, but we are back.
What theme song is that for? There's like a TV show that is a theme song
Believe
for.
it or not,
Yeah.
I'm walking on there.
Yeah. Okay, not a theme song. Believe it or not, George isn't at home. That one. From Seinfeld.
Yeah. Well, the moral of the story is we're walking on air because we are back, baby.
Woo!
What is this new podcast that has shown up in your feed in case you still were subscribed to Big Talk with Laura and Rachel?
And we're
There's
like,
a brand new
this?
podcast.
Yeah, what is this shit? You don't even know what you're listening to.
Well, I'll tell you, friend. This is Impolite Society, the podcast where we answer the questions that you're too afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything to that? Or
It's been so long. Like it's been a while. I'm still getting back into the groove. I have nothing to add other than I'm excited to be here.
Cool. Yeah. So we tackle the questions. We take turns asking each other questions every week about things that would not pass in polite society. And then we dig into the answers by sharing our own experience, some pretty, questionable research at time, but we like to think it's legit.
I prefer the term shoddy. Shoddy
Yes.
research.
It's not the New York Times. It's a podcast. It's for fun.
It's more like the New York Post.
The Guardian.
There you go.
The Daily Mail. Not that part. I'll back that up a little bit.
Vice? Question mark? I don't know.
Question mark? I would love to consider ourselves Vice. That'd be great. So we do a little research. We do a little musing. We have a lot of fun.
We drank a little wine.
Yes,
I'm just finishing up my first glass. Here's my second. Did you hear that?
Ooh, that sounded beautiful.
Oh, are we ready?
Oh, round of applause for the wine.
Applause break, everyone. Applause break. Yeah, so we're diving in. This is an important question that I have to pose to Rachel. My impolite question.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Ready to dive in. You're ready to... Okay. So my impolite question is, do you really think you're that smart?
Oh, this is a good one because I'm going to say yes. Yes, I know. The tests have confirmed it. I am smart.
Okay, we're going to talk about the test. So this is interesting.
I think I am. But then again, I also, because I am so smart, SMRT, I know that everybody thinks they're smart.
Yeah, that is exactly what the research shows. And so, we always think that we are the smartest ones in the room, right? But are we? I mean, everyone can't be the smartest, right? So
that's well, I wanted to ask you the same question. Do you think you're that smart? Do you think you're smarter than the average duck?
I will get to that. And we can unpack it at the end. So what we're going to talk about first is it seems like there's a lot of dumb people around, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're online, you're in traffic, you're at work, it seems like there's a lot of dummies out there. And it leads to this inevitable feeling like, oh, I am smarter than the average bear. And
for sure.
So thinking about it, when's the last time that you felt really, really dumb?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. It's hard, right? I think your brain protects you from really dumb because I know I feel dumb a lot. Like I do stupid things that I'm constantly kicking myself around or for. But it was really hard to think of a specific anecdote about it. Mm-hmm. So probably the most recent dumb moment I had was I lost 75% of our pets within 24 hours a week ago. Yeah.
75% is 3 out of 4, correct?
Yes. Easy math. For me, the communication major. I have to keep the math simple.
How did you lose your pets in your house?
Well, the one I think got out when we were loading groceries. I didn't even realize. I just walked out the next morning and he was just outside.
Was it a cat?
Yeah.
Oh, which
I was
one?
just like, Franklin. I was like, Franklin, what are you doing out here? And it was so sad because he was sitting by our only open window that my husband had left open all night. And he was like sitting outside the screen being like, Let me in.
Aww.
Oh, he did it to himself. It's not like we threw him out. And then I lost both dogs simultaneously by not closing the gate all the way on my way out.
And, they ran
And
out.
I happened to look out the window and see Frida hanging out in the front yard with some construction workers. And I was like,
hey,
oh,
what's up?
there's my dog. And so then, yep, we had to go chase him down. So that was pretty stupid. I know I feel dumb all the time, but then I have another good story about dumb. I don't know if it's dumb or it's silly, but it comes from my husband.
Oh, about your husband being dumb.
Yes. Well, to be fair, I asked him. I said, you tell me I'm dumb all the time. What is the story? Tell me about a time I was dumb. And he could not think of anything. But
'Cause you're too smart for your own good.
yeah, I don't think that's it. No, but he one day he has this dog. One of the 25% of our animals is this dog, and that's a really weird way to say that. But
One of
we have-
our animals is a dog. Would be the normal way of saying it.
yes, and her name is Frida, and she likes to eat. And Dan has found a way to weasel into her heart to be the favorite owner, by just letting her lick his plate after we eat. So one day I was gone. He's eating dinner. He's eating in front of the TV. He eats. He puts the plate down for the dog. Remembers we have apple pie. Goes in, picks up his plate, takes it into the living room or the kitchen. Puts the apple pie, puts the ice cream on it. Totally forgetting that, he just picked it up off the ground, but totally forgetting that the dog just licked it. So he gets his apple pie and his ice cream, eats it all, and it's not until he's licking the ice cream off the plate that he remembers the dog just licked it like 10 minutes ago.
Tell Dan I completely understand that when the prospect of apple pie and ice cream present itself, blindness occurs. It's just, you got the blinders on and that's all you see.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Completely get it. So, all right, I guess that I have to answer the question now too, right?
Oh,
Last time you felt
definitely.
really
I want
dumb.
to hear about all your dumb moments.
I'm sure I have a ton. But I can say most acutely, the time that I felt the stupidest in recent history was definitely pregnancy brain. It made me feel like I was 5 steps behind everyone else. I remember I was packing for a trip. I was thinking like 4 or 5 months pregnant. I was packing for a trip and I got my suitcase out and opened it up and looked at it and literally had this strange moment of like, I have no idea what to put in this suitcase. Just like, what goes in a suitcase? Completely just confounded me and I couldn't believe it.
Is it snacks? Is it apple pie and ice cream? Is that what you put in a suitcase?
Yeah, exactly. It was this moment of just feeling lost, and it was such a bizarre experience. But there are others that are definitely not pregnancy related. There was one semi-recently that displays a type of stupidity that we will talk about. And I was talking to my husband, Austin, about Korea. And I don't know where the conversation was or what we were talking about, but I'm like, oh yeah, Korea, it's an island. And Austin's like, it is not an island. And I'm like, no, yeah, it is. It's an island. It's an island in Asia.
Oh, gosh.
It is not an island, guys. North Korea shares a border with China. A quick
does.
Google search revealed as such. And it was very interesting. It was this, moment where you're like really sure of it. But nope, that was definitely not the case.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely, those moments have happened to me as well, where you're so sure of something and you swear up and down that that's what it is, and it's not the case. And
Yeah.
gosh, we have stupid phones in our pockets at all times now, and that just makes it way easier to prove that we're dumb.
I mean, that's the beauty of smartphones, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. But then
Call-
I also like how your stupidest moment, the first one about pregnancy brain, is kind of like a humble brag, because you're like, I'm only dumb when there's something else siphoning off my energy and thought power.
That was just my first one. I'm sure there are plenty. Hey, okay, you can protect yourself, your ego with that. I can protect myself with my pregnancy. It's fine. That's how I do. So the flip side then of that is, when's the last time you felt smarter than the people around you?
When was my last work meeting? Just kidding.
Just happens constantly.
No, oh man, I didn't didn't think through this one.
On the spot. All right, I'll share one for me. Because this is one that I feel, I don't know, it's a little bit of smarter, but also admittedly a bit of a superiority thing. But I think for me, they're kind of tied, which again, we'll talk about later. But, anytime anyone mentions reality television and like, oh, that's what I watch, I'm like, I immediately feel so much smarter than them. I know it's not fair. I know it. I know it's not fair that television, reality television is mind numbing. Sometimes you need things that are mind numbing and brainless because you had a stressful day. But I cannot stomach reality television. So whenever anyone says, you know, oh, I was watching The Bachelor, or oh, I watched Real Wives of Blah, I'm immediately like, ha ha ha, you of the plebes or the proletariat or whatever.
The proletariat.
There you go.
That's my moment. I just felt really smart.
There you go. And it's something that I need to work on. But yeah, that inevitably makes me feel much smarter than the person I'm talking to.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would say when I feel the smartest is when I kind of create a solution or solve a problem. And I'm trying to think, there has to be a ton coming up. I won't say what the exact situation is, but we are decorating for a holiday, and I won't say what holiday because I don't know when we're releasing this, and I want it to be timely and topical. I was decorating for the most recent holiday that you just experienced, dear listener, and we were figuring out a way to string up lights and, you know, connecting electric and getting the electric to flow. And I just always feel really clever when I can configure it in a way where it gets where it needs to be and all the wires are in the right spot and it works well. That always makes me feel good about myself. Yeah. Or when I solve a problem without having to ask my husband for help. That's always
I remember
good.
I used to feel like when I was in college and I would do math classes, whenever I got to the right answer, I'm like, I am the smartest woman in the world.
Where is my Nobel Prize?
I am absolutely...
Is it at the door right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just
Is that it?
terrible at math. So whenever I got anything right, I just felt so accomplished.
Oh, I can tell you when I look the smartest to other people. And it's
when you have your glasses on?
When... Nah, but no, it's when I can configure their Bluetooth shit. Everybody loves that. When I can get Bluetooth working the way it's supposed to, people are like, what? I've actually taken on a new kind of persona as the tech person.
I have the same thing.
On a new team.
Yeah, in my department, I'm the tech person.
Which is funny because I'm not a techie person at all. But I can just figure things out. And I like solving problems. Yeah. I think that's as we dig into this conversation, intelligence also comes down to if there's a will, there's a way. And if you're invested in finding an answer, you're going to figure it out, right? And that's the difference, is putting in the mental energy.
Well,
not necessarily that it works faster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great segue because we're going to get into the research portion of this podcast.
Put on your glasses. We're about to try to sound smart.
Our shoddy research.
Any kind of ego.
Yeah, our shoddy research.
Yeah, any kind of ego we have is going to go out the window as soon as we start trying to talk about science and research.
Science.
Data. Statistics.
So, well, speaking of statistics, 65% of Americans believe that they are above average in intelligence. So,
which I'm not. I mean, I think I'm smart, but I'm no mathematician. And that tells me that that's not right. 65% can't be better than average.
Yeah,
is that true?
Well, that's what people think. So whether or not they are, we're going to get into. Another interesting fact, and we'll link all these sources in the show notes, but another interesting note about this is that men are more likely to think that they are above average in intelligence than women. Can we hold for the shock of a lifetime, everyone?
Do you hear that?
The collective gasp of our listeners.
No. I meant my eyes rolled so hard, I thought that maybe the microphone picked it up.
I like the Liz Lemon eye roll. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the patriarchy for a moment in this moment?
Well, I think it goes to just, we're always talking, like, men receive a very different upbringing. Boys receive a very different upbringing than girls. And they're told to be confident and feel good about themselves, which what is that like?
That's how we're going to raise the next generation, Rachel. So cheers to that.
Cheers. My cat, he feels great about himself.
So there's also a little bit more to this data as well. So people who were depressed also don't overrate themselves. The more depressed a person is, the more likely they were to underrate or underestimate their intelligence, which I think is really interesting. So the research that suggests that this illusion of superiority, which is what this phenomenon is called, it's actually kind of an ego protector. It's something that we use to shield our self-esteem, is that when you're depressed, that this effect doesn't come into play. Or does this effect not come into play because you're depressed? It's kind of a chicken or an egg scenario. And so I think that's really interesting.
No, I've actually heard separate studies or separate research that describe depressed folks as people who tend to lean more realist. They're more realist. They're not idealist about the world, about themselves. So and again, that's kind of a chicken and an egg. Is it depression trying to take those rose-tinted glasses off the world? Or are depressed people can see the world how it is and then therefore are depressed by it? Because when you're looking down the barrel of a world where you're an average person completely indistinguishable from anybody else
depressed.
And the world is what it is, that's not exactly a good feeling.
So I thought that was an interesting part of research. And then another kind of dimension to this, people thinking that they're above average intelligence, was that it affects varied with culture. So North Americans, they really tend to go along with this trend. Americans in general, the article that I read said North American. So I guess that includes Canada, right? I mean, we're not the only thing in North America, but
no, in Mexico.
Oh, Mexico. I forgot about Mexico. Okay. So, the North Americans tend to overestimate, but if you go to Asian cultures, Japan, Korea, China, this phenomenon, it doesn't happen. They do not fall into this 65% nonsense. And
really,
the theory is because Eastern cultures, they have more of an emphasis on self-improvement and deferential to leadership and like humility, while Western cultures, they tend to this individualistic value and then self-esteem value. So I thought, okay,
question about the research.
I'm taking no questions about the research.
No. This is a very valid one. When they asked those Asian cultures, did they ask them, are you smarter than your peers or are you smarter than Americans? Because they would say, yes, we are smarter than Americans. Because my Chinese roommate in college, she straight up told me, she was like, I got math. I'm good at math. I'm math. Chinese. Like, you might be struggling. I got it.
The research did not say specifically. But that's a very good point. Or also, did they ask them multiple times? Like, isn't that the thing? Like, you have to do it multiple times before they, like, admit. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. That's kind of a little bit more humble brag.
Yeah. All right, so
yeah, we're over here. We're always trying to prove we're better than everybody else. I mean, that's why we invented Instagram.
Capitalism. We're always trying to be better than the next guy. So, all right. So now that we've talked about this illusion of superiority, it comes to a pretty difficult to answer question, as it turns out. What is intelligence? This was really interesting research for me. There are a lot of different theories, a lot of different models, a way to explain and quantify intelligence. There was really a lot to see here. But in general, when we think of, okay, how intelligent are you? The thing that everyone points to is an IQ test, right? Fun fact.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know that it's a fun fact. Anyway, IQ test. The IQ stands for intellectual quotient, which I did not even know or even think to ask. So maybe I'm the big dummy. I don't know. But there are many different kinds of tests. These, you can go through the whole psychological history of it. The first ones I think were in like the late 1800s, and things fall in and out of fashion. They add different dimensions and things like that. There's a lot of models and boring history and a lot of old white dudes, with the curly mustache and talking about psychology. But what I generally came to is there's a lot of different definitions. My favorite one was this gentleman, and he did have a black and white photo and a curly mustache. His name was David Weschler. He was a psychologist in the 30s, and he defined intelligence as the global capacity of a person to act purposefully, to think rationally, and deal effectively with his environment. So that was my favorite definition.
Yes, because I did look this up as well. And
did you hear the wine? You did.
I think so.
You definitely did. I was not peeing.
It
was the wine.
Oh God, that would be that'd be like the worst ASMR video in the world.
And I'd listen to it.
Sounds from a public bathroom.
I love ASMR. If there was like some like, and like,
no, it'd just be like
plop plop,
and then oh God, the of the
we're interrupting your intelligence podcast to talk about poop jokes, everyone. Hope you're enjoying.
Yes. Well, we did promise some in-flight conversation. So, I mean, we've been pretty on track so far. I think we have to get a little
dirty.
Here.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Exactly. So, I looked up some definitions as well, and what's crazy to me is that it's there's very abstract. There's the Webster dictionary definition of intelligence, but every discipline has its own definition, like whether it's just like kind of our collective one or psychology or artificial intelligence, which is very interesting, right? Because they define it as, we might think of a smart person as somebody who has a lot of knowledge or a lot of wisdom, but artificial intelligence just defines intelligence as the ability to act appropriately in an uncertain environment, which is that really what is that what it comes down to? Being able to, for us, take our experience and our knowledge and our wisdom and apply it to a situation to act correctly versus a computer or a robot that all that knowledge is just programmed into them.
I mean, I think that's that kind of falls in line with the definition, right? Act purposefully, think rationally, deal effectively. I think that comes together. But yeah, there is no hard and fast definition.
So I'm going to ask you, who is the smartest person you know? Ooh. And why do you think that they're so smart?
That's a really good question. Who is the smartest person? Okay, I can think of a person. I'm not going to name names, but
don't say your husband.
No, I'm not going to. I love my husband. I think he's a very smart man, because I would not tolerate a stupid person in my household. Cats excluded. But, no, I know a guy. He is very smart, like objectively. He's very intelligent. But there are definite ways that I think he is really dumb as well. Like, he is, that very high functioning rational thinker. Like, one of the things he does for fun is like really complicated puzzles, like literally like, not, jigsaw puzzles, but like these puzzle boxes and things like that. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like I could feel like you could put me in a room for 3 days and I'd be like, I don't know how to solve it.
I don't even know where to start.
But this is like what he does for a hobby. So he's a very smart guy. But I also feel like he falls very short in understanding, it's not that he doesn't have social skills, because he does. It's that he doesn't have the kind of like empathy, curiosity, and wonder in the world. So he's kind of a sad guy, And I feel like that's, again, I
hope he doesn't listen. I said, I hope he doesn't
I doubt
listen.
it. And I don't think he would know. Well, no, he would know who I was talking about because of the puzzle boxes.
Yeah, he had a very specific hobby. I mean,
I doubt
unless
he
you would hang
listens.
out with like 8 guys with
I doubt
puzzle
he
boxes.
listens, but if he does, you're my friend and I love you. But I think he chooses to see the world in a very sad way, which I feel like makes you unintelligent. You know what I mean? Like if you've closed yourself off to a certain aspect of humanity, I feel like you've chosen to be sad. I feel like I can't accurately explain this without going into detail, but he's very smart. How about that? We're going to end there.
Well, I was going to say, because if we're working from the definition that intelligence is if we're working from the definition that intelligence is knowing what to do in uncertain situations, does that apply to him? I mean, he might be really good at solving puzzles or really good at doing math equations, but if he doesn't know how to act in an uncertain place, is that intelligence based on the definition we're working from right here?
I would say that where he falls short, if I were going to specify, it would be to act purposefully. Yeah. Again, this would be a deep dive conversation, like into like his personal flaws,
which is not what
Yeah.
we're here to do. I mean,
Okay.
that's probably some impolite
It's
conversation.
definitely some impolite
but we're just going to
conversation.
save that for after we stop recording. I got to know what this dude's deal is.
So what about you? Who is the smartest person that you know?
Oh, I think,
Is
okay,
it
the
me?
first person that
Rachel,
comes to
Is it
mind,
me?
you're up there. You're top 10.
Coming in at
Top
number
10.
10 is
And
Laura
I don't know a lot
Black.
of people. No, I would say one of the sharpest people I ever met in my life is my dear darling cousin.
Oh, is this the lawyer?
And she is,
Yeah.
yes, she's a lawyer, but not only is she just like lawyer smart, she is like quick and sharp. And you ever watch the Gilmore Girls?
I have not.
Like she talks and throws out jokes at that pace.
She should be
which
a
is
writer. Fuck this lawyer
human-
shit. Go write for a sitcom.
I bet the lawyer. I mean, she was born to argue. Oh, and she's gonna come up later too because she has a really funny story. But yeah, I would say she's the smartest person, and I wouldn't define intelligence by necessarily being able to solve problems because my husband's very smart and he's really good at following rules, and that's what makes him really good at math because he can remember all the rules and he knows the x equals whatever. If this then that,
The X
which
equals
makes him more like
whatever. That's a math rule.
that's communication major. That's why I'm making podcasts. But no, he's if this then that, which is more like a robot than a human. But it's fine. I'm married to him. But I define intelligence by like ability to come up with things quickly and keep up and adjust and adapt and keep pace. And I think the funniest, or not the funniest, I think the smartest people are the funny people because they're able to bring in information, turn it around, make comparisons, and then throw you a curveball in a great way. So I just, comedians, I think, are probably some of the smarter people. They're also sad. So there's a correlation there, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think comedy is hard, that people pretend like it's something that's easy, but it's really, really not. And I've also heard that, like, when I don't know any comedians, at least not any good ones, but
I don't know why I laughed so hard at that.
that kind of in the room, they'll tell people like, oh, I'm a comedian, and people will be surprised because comedians are often the silent person in the room because
The
they're
observer.
they're listening, they're absorbing, they are processing what's going on and kind of turning it on its head. So I can agree with that. Maybe that's why I like.
Can I
humor
also
so
say?
much. Yeah,
Can I also say, Lara?
Lara.
I don't know any comedian. Wait, did I not say that right?
You just said funny, Lara.
That's the beer. The one beer is sinking
The
in.
one
Okay.
beer? Oh my god, I'm like on my third glass of wine. Jesus Christ. Go ahead.
Laura.
Yes.
Did I say that
Yes.
correctly? Laura. To quote Laura, I don't know any comedians as she is on a comedy podcast.
Am I? Okay. I mean, I think I'm pretty funny, but, nobody has taste.
Don't sell us short.
All right,
We're
all right.
we're hey, I think the bar to be a comedy podcast is pretty low. So I think
That's
we've
why
at
we've
least
been added to the comedy podcast
taken
genre.
that shuffle step over it.
I like to think that I can at least get a chuckle out of somebody. So I do in work meetings. So that means that I'm funny, right? You should see her
Yes.
little smile right now, guys. It's pretty hilarious. Silence. All right. Anyway, okay, back to the research. We're really getting off track. Back to the research. So, all right. So the point is, we talk about IQ tests as being kind of the standard for intelligence, and the average IQ is about 100, and that follows how you'd expect in a standard bell curve. And 130 is considered superior intelligence. And IQ testing, it has a lot of use, right, in educational and clinical settings. When you think about people, it's helpful because if you are going to try, oh, did I hear that?
I'm on my second seasonal ale.
Seasonal ale. I am drinking an Evergreen Sauvignon Blanc from Trader Joe's. It kind of sucks. I've had a better Sauvignon Blanc from Trader Joe's, but I think this was the $7 one, so I'm not going to complain. So the IQ test, it has uses. It's really useful in looking at people who, maybe are falling behind, right? In, school and kind of in life, and to see if their IQ, if it's low, you can address that as a reason. If you're doing poorly in school because your IQ is low, that's going to be a different solution versus if you're doing poorly in school and your IQ is median, or really high. That's going to be a different solution. So there are definitely purposes to the IQ test, but looking at these different models, all these different types of intelligence, that's kind of where IQ tests fall short. There are a shit ton of models about intelligence, about different types.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm while we're being impolite, can I ask you, what is your IQ? Do you know your IQ?
I do not, because I tried to take an IQ test, not for this podcast, but just like sometime in the previous, years. And I'm like, I think I'm so smart, I'm going to go take an IQ test. And I got it was an online one. I got really frustrated in like question 3. And I was like, fuck this. This is annoying. And I closed it. I have no idea what my IQ is.
That sounds like an 100. No, just kidding.
I don't doubt it. What about you?
No, I'm totally joking. I have not taken an IQ test since I was a wee
child. Somebody took you.
A little one.
They took you for an IQ test.
Girl, I'm gifted.
Oh,
so that means I scored above a 130.
Oh,
the test.
For serious?
I do not lie. Yeah, when I was a kiddo. So I was in the gifted program in school. And that just meant I got to take all these weird classes about making miniature castles and playing with rats.
Well, that was
So
gifted in the Hazelwood School District. Are we sure that has the same definition?
Coming from a Catholic school where they didn't even have any kind of standardization.
It's so true. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, you had a whole mythology presented as a class. So there's that.
You mean religion class?
Yeah, something like that.
That's what it's called.
Something like that.
No, I have...
Hour a day went to church. Right? Did you go to church every day?
No, we went on Fridays. Every week.
TGIF, baby.
Every Friday for K through 12. So I consider that church carries me to at least 40. And then when I'm 40, then I can consider if I need to go to church again.
That's actually the math that my grandfather did. He went to, they went to Catholic school in a very German neighborhood growing up and every day. So he's like, I already hit my quota for a lifetime. Yeah. So he doesn't go. Even when we were kids and we would go to church, he would just skip. He's like, I already did it.
I am now firmly in the C and E category, which is the Christmas and Easter category.
Somehow I feel like that's worse than not going at all, because at least I stand for something.
I plead the fifth on that one. So
tradition is important.
I have no idea what my IQ is. If I were to well, okay, you know what? I'm going to withhold that
If I were to guess, I think it would be 160.
I'm going to, oh, thank you, Rachel. I'm so smart. I'm going to withhold that information about where I would guess. But I have not taken the test.
Yes. So in my gifted program that I was in middle school, our teacher would tell us all the time, you're smarter than your teachers. You're smarter than 95% of the people that you'll meet in life.
That's a really weird thing to tell people. I mean, I guess it's true, but that's, I don't know if that's a solid foundation for integrating well into society.
No, but she would also say, you know, there's a lot of CEOs with 90 IQs and trash men with 130.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you do with it. It's not just a natural ability.
That is very true.
Which, can we also just say the IQ tests are probably racist, right? I think that was something that I looked into, was how IQ and socioeconomic class correspond. And there's less variance, I believe, in the higher socioeconomic class. So in the poorer or the lower, you have a bigger range, right? Some people are really low, some people are really high, and I think that has more to do with genetics and like actual. There's more variance in parent involvement. But the higher your socioeconomic class, the more it levels off.
That makes sense.
So that, yes, because you have more resources, you have more support. So I don't think they're necessarily higher, but more people are higher as opposed to in a lower one where it could really run the spectrum.
Yeah, that was a big part of the IQ test research, or just, you know, the definition of intelligence research is that it's really across the board, like all these different ways that you can quantify intelligence, and that is there a bias in these about, you know, if it's the college educated scientists that are putting together these tests, is it really an accurate way to judge the intelligence of somebody? Maybe he doesn't speak the lingo, you know?
Yeah.
But has the capability. So that, I mean, that there are so many different fingers and dimensions to this. And a lot of different types of intelligence that, you know, there's verbal, nonverbal, emotional, mathematical, interpersonal, spatial, creative, natural. That was one of the aspects, like people who are like good with nature.
They're tuned in. They can make some ointments out of,
or like
forest
just naturally
foliage.
good at, like, you know, working with animals,
keeping a plant alive.
There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of different dimensions that is really hard to quantify. That this IQ test isn't really the end all be all of intelligence, because it's just looking at that, like, kind of rational reasoning, kind of spatial recognition. There's a lot to be desired. There's a lot of different types of intelligence.
Yeah.
And so, but that leads me to the other side of the coin, defining stupidity.
Ooh.
And that was a lot easier.
With a name of a person, or
No.
Just kidding.
With concepts. That was much easier. In my research, I generally come across 3 different ways to be stupid. Are you ready?
Yep. Oh, I'm so ready.
Okay. Number 1, absent-mindedness. So people who just forget things or don't notice things or forget an attention to detail. That,
or lose their cat, or leave the gate unlocked.
or just, like, you know, forget to turn off the stove burner, or lock their keys in their car. You know, like that.
Oh, I've done that a ton too.
So that is one of the kinds of stupidity. And interestingly, in this kind of research that they've done, people were most forgiving of this kind of stupidity. Because no matter how smart you are, you've had a brain fart here or there. Everyone's locked their keys in their car, right?
To err is human.
Exactly.
Nobody's perfect 100% of the time. Yeah, this is something that I think anyone can forgive, even in the most extreme cases, where people have forgotten their kids inside cars. Like, that's something that's horrible and tragic, but totally understandable and forgivable.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that. That everyone has suffered from this in time, at a time. But I think that when they talk about, you know, absent-mindedness in terms of stupidity, maybe it's people who are constantly absent-minded, you know, not sometimes or occasionally or here and there. So that's a
scatterbrain Jane.
Yeah. So that's the first type of stupidity. The second type is lack of control. This was an interesting one. And there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. And the way that the most succinct way I found to define it is I just can't help myself. So this is, you know that drinking that, fourth glass of wine, it's really going to fuck you over the next day, but you just can't help yourself.
That's funny because my brain went straight towards
Food?
Straight towards alcohol too. Maybe that's the common denominator.
Food was my second thought.
Oh yeah. But I think in a stupidity or like lack of intelligence sense, it has to be to the max.
Yeah.
It has to be even turned up. I mean, yeah, because we can feel dumb when the outcome is exactly what we can expect, but we could have avoided. But then there's also people who continue to spend money and put themselves into credit card debt. There's people who commit crimes. I heard a story of somebody who stole $20 from a person. They stole $20 out of a desk at work and then ended up, getting a police record for $20. And it's just like they just couldn't help themselves. And then my favorite example is my stupid dog, which I call her stupid because she's just
Frida.
Literally the one that was hanging out with the construction workers.
Slut.
She just can't control herself. Like literally can't help herself. This is her. She will grab the food off the counter. She will take any opportunity. And she knows as soon as you walk in the door, she's like, oh, I fucked up. Sorry. And it's just like, why don't you know better? Because she literally just can't control herself.
Yeah. And this, I think, these are the kind of people that you see on, World's Dumbest Criminals. I think it's this kind of thing is, that the outcome isn't going to turn out the way that you want it to, but you just can't help yourself. You continue, or what is that stupid expression, which actually I really can't stand. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. I mean, generally, I think that that's a really dumb saying because occasionally, if you keep trying, you know what I mean? Like hopefully you're going to get somewhere. But anyway, it's that kind of thing of like, it's not going to turn out and yet you continue to persist because you just can't help yourself.
Yeah.
So then the third type, which I think is the most interesting type, is confident arrogance. So there is a term for this. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what it is that people, they overestimate their knowledge because they don't know anything. It's this scenario where you've heard one fact about something and then you think that you're an expert. This also kind of applied to people basically who were too dumb to know that they're dumb. So they have overestimated their abilities because they don't have the self-awareness to accurately assess their own skills. They're too dumb to know that they're dumb. And I feel like this is something that I see so much today, especially in social media.
Social media. Oh my gosh. But this is where my super smart lawyer cousin comes in again.
Okay.
Because she, when she was a little kid, like, I don't know how old kids are when they start reading or spelling or any of that nonsense.
I don't either. We'll find out.
Yeah. We'll check back in with Charlotte in a couple years and see where she's at on this whole spectrum. But when she was little, a little kid, probably one of the first words she ever learned to spell, did not know anything, about spelling or phonics or that kind of stuff.
Hooked on phonics worked for me.
Worked it for me. But she swore up and down that you spelt mom O-M-O because she had heard those letters, that kind of repetition one time, and she was gonna stake it all, put it all on that's how you spell the word mom. And because she didn't have the knowledge or any other thing, because, she was a little kiddo, she couldn't understand that that's not the sounds the letters make. That doesn't make any sense, right? But because she didn't have any of that other knowledge, like you said, she was she was dumb in spelling and reading and that kind of thing. But that lack of knowledge let her double down on saying that it's OMO. And she argued it for a long time. I mean, when adults were contradicting her, saying, like, that's not right, she said, no, it is. No. It 100% is. And that's why she's a lawyer today, because she's really good at arguing.
She's doubling down in her confident arrogance. So it's interesting because the scientists, they were looking at these people, they judged them based on their logic, grammar, sense of humor, found that those who performed at the bottom quartile for all of those things, they rated their skills far above average. So people in the 12th percentile rated their own expertise, their own intelligence in the 62nd percentile.
Wow.
That's insane.
So by that logic, you and I are pro podcasters.
Exactly. We have to try. Oh, you know what this makes me think of? This makes me think of, I don't have any resources for this, but I heard it at a conference and it really stuck with me. I think it was a women's conference. So of course it's going to be, something about
imposter syndrome.
No, it's going to be about experts, people who think that they're experts in things. You know, the thing of like, if men look at a job and they have like 5 out of 10 of the aspects that apply. Women, they have to have like 9 or 10 out of 10 to apply. And one of the things, it's just that men are so much more likely to overestimate their intelligence, as we established at the beginning of this podcast. But they asked a bunch of people, men and women, if you were an expert on breastfeeding. Men were more likely to rate themselves as expert breastfeeders than women.
What?
Yeah. That one stuck with me so much, and I'll never forget it. I guess I should look it up to actually verify that it's true and it's something this woman just didn't pull out of her ass. But
hey, don't contradict yourself on our podcast.
Okay. I won't.
This is America in the modern age. Whatever we say out of our mouths right now is fact. It's the truth.
Yes, I'm behind it.
With the lowercase
That
t.
is 100% truth, and that men rate themselves as experts in breastfeeding where women did not.
Well, because they have no idea, right? It's just like baby mouth, nipple, boom. That's all I need to know.
Exactly. So that's kind of where this confident arrogance comes in, is that when you know less about a subject, you're more likely to think that you know everything. So it's like a U-curve, right? So you know nothing on the x-axis, and then your rate of confidence is your y-axis, axis. And then it comes into a U shape.
You sound real dumb. No, just kidding.
It comes into a U shape, so that people who are like, moderate in their knowledge rate themselves as moderate knowledge, but then the edges kind of curve upwards is basically the idea. And I think this makes sense. It's a very human thing. So the world is vast and unknowable, in my opinion. So if you were to look at the world through a pinhole, you would just see probably the color blue, right? Because the world is mostly ocean. And you'd say, all right, this is a world, this is just the color blue. You wouldn't even know that it's a world. But as you start to expand that little pinhole and you start to get bigger and bigger, you start to see so much more. And then when you see a large amount, then you start to understand how much you might not know that is unseen in the peripheral, right? That you're not aware of.
Oh, yeah.
So I think this is a very human an understandable way of seeing the world, but maybe it's through experience. You just get to know, oh wait, just because I know this one thing about it doesn't mean that I know everything about it. So it's one of those traits of human nature that we should probably try to fight against. You know what I mean? That you know that it's there, but you should try to actively avoid it.
No, I think that's 100% fair, because we are, modern people running on prehistoric hardware, and and we have to constantly fight our
Evolutionary biology, everyone.
we have to fight our natural urges. Our natural urges say, put every piece of food you can get your hands on in your mouth. That doesn't work when there's an abundance of food, and that's why we have an obesity epidemic. And, you have to constantly fight what your caveman brain wants. And if you're a lot about this subject, it's super simple. I must know everything there is to know about it. Then, you would stop yourself from the 5th, 6th, 7th Oreo, take a step back and be like, maybe I don't.
Wait, 5 or 6 Oreos is bad? What about 8 to 12?
8 to 12. Well, I would say a serving size on the package, according to Oreo.
Oh, fuck the serving
Oreo
size.
and a half.
No, are you serious?
It's probably like 2 or 3.
Oh.
But either way,
I was gonna
Oreos are, if you're going to binge on something, I would not recommend Oreos. I feel like they're very bad for you. Well, they're like this is my new thing. Very nutrient dense.
Calorically dense?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Okay. And they're not that good. Oreos, Oreos, they scratch an itch, but you could do better, everyone. If you're going to
eat
on something better.
Because if you have, 6 Oreos, you just might as well get some McDonald's or a McFlurry or something at that point,
Or a bottle of wine.
A bottle of wine. And because don't even act like you're going to eat an Oreo, you're not going to have some milk with it. Because it's just like, what are you, an animal? You got to have the milk with the Oreos.
Can I dunk my Oreos in wine?
Oh, God, that sounds so bad.
Did you hear it? Did you hear the wine pop? If only I had a package of Oreos and you could hear like the rustle of the package as I dip my Oreos in wine. All right. That is the end of the research. So we talked about illusory superiority.
That sounds like that might get you on a list, a government list.
Illusory. That's actually how it's spelled. Illusory. Illusory superiority. We talked about intelligence and IQ tests. We talked about defining stupid. So that's kind of, there's a lot to unpack there, but that's where we're going to cut it off on the shoddy research portion. Back to us. How do you personally define intelligence?
Well, I think we kind of touched on that before. I think it's ability to keep up in a conversation. I think it's an ability to understand what's happening and follow it and be able to add to it. I had a friend who we were talking about, dating and partners and stuff. And they said something like, oh, I don't need a Poindexter. I don't want somebody who's like, actually, and can say facts. But to me, that's not what intelligence is. Because we were talking about intelligence and how important it is in a partner. And I was just like, to me, that's not it. I want someone who's able to crack jokes and keep up with a conversation, and I don't have to constantly backtrack and explain things for. That's intelligence, is like kind of keeping up with the surroundings, maintaining a conversation, someone who can match wits and kind of like throw jabs at. Like that's intelligence to me, more so than maybe even being able to solve really tough, really complex math equations or puzzles.
Yeah. So similar, that's similar to me. So when I was thinking about my own personal definition of intelligence, when I meet somebody, what makes me think that they're intelligent? So one of the things that I thought of was emotional versus logical thinkers. I think that emotion is very real, very human. And it's, again, that caveman brain, like having to fight against it, is that something can give you a very strong emotional response. But a part of intelligence to me is being able to work past that and seeking to understand things, looking from them from a more rational viewpoint and saying, okay, you said X, it made me feel Y. Now let's get to the bottom of that. Where did that come from? Just looking to dive deeper into things and not immediately going to that caveman brain portion that makes you say, you're a threat. I don't like you. And putting up your guard and, fisticuffs right off the bat. That is a part of intelligence to me. Another part is asking why. I guess that kind of folds into the seeking to understand,
does.
the emotional versus logical, is that, you know, when something occurs, you just don't accept it. You think, why? You look to dig deeper and to find what's there, as opposed to what's just presented to you on the surface. That's a big thing for me in intelligence. I think that's why we can have these kind of conversations. That's why you and I immediately clicked, is because you're looking to dive deeper and looking into things, as opposed to, you know, just accepting the surface. And that's just the way things are. People who say that always irks me.
And I don't think I realized how deeply we agreed on that until just now. I mean, we have almost a full 24 hours, a full day of big talks that exist out in the world. And I guess I never heard you phrase it as that, but that is literally, I remember saying this years ago. It's like, I feel like the singularity is when we can all understand our motivations 100% of the time and be able to adjust and respond to them, right? So it's not just, oh, I am mad right now, but thinking to why you're mad, what caused you to be mad, what factors are telling you should be mad, and then adjusting to that. And I don't know how I missed that until this conversation just right here. Maybe it's because I'm hearing you talk and seeing things written out in front of me. But yeah, we are very much aligned on that. And we have very similar values where I mean, because you have it as emotional versus logical, but I think there's more social intelligence there too, and understanding the dynamics between people. And I mean, that's really what we aim to do in these conversations, and this impolite conversation, is just understanding how we as people interact with our world and with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just seeking to understand another person, but also, you know, not just outside, inside. That, I think, that's where it starts, right? If you can understand your own personal motivations and understand your own whys, and as you start to learn yourself, which has taken me, I'm 36 years old. It's taken me 36 years, you know, to get to this point where I feel like I have a firm understanding of what's going on in here. And then maybe in the last, I don't know, 5 or 7 years, I've started to look outside at that. You know, in my 20s, I was very hard and fast. Like, this is the rule. This is how it should be. And that's because I think I had a lack of understanding of where my own motivations came from. And then I can kind of broadcast that out to try to seek to understand other people's motivations.
Yeah,
does that make
and
sense?
this is the part where we do differ. I know this because we've had this conversation.
Oh, okay. We already hit it. We already hit an impasse.
No, it's not an impasse. It's just a difference. So we try to understand, you know, the why behind things. But to us, the why comes from different places, where yours is internal, that you say that your why is 100% from you, where I think our internal whys are shaped by the world we're living in and the societal pressures. And, you know, this will come up so many times as we have these conversations, but society versus self. And
I think that's so interesting, though, that we can, like, have that firm, like, baseline that we agree on, but then, like an iceberg, you know what I mean? Underneath it,
what's causing it?
There's exactly
no man is an island or an iceberg. We all live connected to each other. So that's my background. That's my case.
And I do agree with that to a point. And so this is, I just love this, because this is the kind of thing that makes you realize how wide and unknowable the world is, right? That you can have these core beliefs that you agree with people on, but then disagree in the nuance and all these small things about what contributes to it. So yeah, I just high five on us and the world and how complicated and beautiful it all is.
Yay.
But okay, that's my little sappy thing.
That's
but okay,
the
my
wine
last
starting to
thing
kick in.
about it totally is. I'm like getting a little like bobbleheady. So talking about intelligence as a whole, how important is it really? I mean, to you in your life, how important is being intelligent or being around intelligent people. How important is that to you?
I mean, okay, intelligence in general, very important. I think where we landed on, regardless of your walk of life, your ability to adapt and be successful in your environment, that's critical, right? If you can't cut it in whatever world you're in, it doesn't matter what walk of life you have. If you're not doing well in it, okay, I shouldn't say that, but I think your intelligence can help you succeed wherever you are. So it is important.
No, I totally understand that. And I kind of fall in that same realm. I mean, it is important to me. It's one of the biggest things that, as I'm raising a child, that it's the biggest wish for her is that I tell her all the time, I'm like, you're going to grow up to be so smart. Because I really value intelligence. I'm going to value the discussions, the deep dive, the prioritizing learning, the understanding why, those critical thinking skills is something that I'm really going to prioritize for someone. And when I was proposing this question, I thought of this television show that I watched, and you should totally check it out. Recommendation to Rachel, which I know she'll never watch. Anybody else who's listening, maybe you'll go watch it. It's a show called Derek. And it's a Ricky Gervais show, a British comedy. And in it, he plays like this very simple-minded, individual. And what Derek says, he says it's more important to be kind than clever or good-looking. And in my heart, in like my soul, I believe that is true, that being kind to the people around you is more important than those things, that to express love and caring for people is really what matters, because that's going to leave them feeling good about themselves and good feeling about you, and just spreading kindness in the world is more important than being clever or good looking. But in the real world, in the world that we live in every day, unfortunately, that's another story. It's just not the case. That my wishes for myself and for my child is to be smart and good looking, and just to make the world easier on yourself, because that's the reality of the world. But I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that everyone could get by on just being kind.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not the real world.
And I think that you're maybe painting too a pessimistic view of society, or maybe a view on your own values, because we've talked about here that the intelligence that we value the most is social intelligence. So your daughter can be smart, but smart in the way that you are, where they understand how the world works, right? So she's not going to be naive in the way of the world. So she's not going to say, oh, as long as I'm kind to other people, there's a balance between being kind and generous and being a doormat. And I think that's the intelligence factor that comes into it. And that's the intelligence factor that you're going to give to her. So.
Yeah. And it's a fuzzy line. It's hard to determine where that line is.
Oh, yeah.
To being kind and being a doormat.
I mean, definitely. I would never define somebody's success in life as being kind. I mean, you can, who also is kind? Serial killers, because they're really kind to you until they kill you, right? Like, kindness can be faked, right? It's not genuine. I would say being able to be genuine and respond to the world and react to the world genuinely, and like you have your genuine reactions, and then you can process it and react. I'm babbling at this point. This is that's where it comes from. It's not just being a blanket super, super nice to every single person you meet, because being super, super nice to everyone you meet is how you end up at a serial killer's house, Well,
it's also how you end up a little bit boring and forgettable. Yeah.
I mean, I'd hate to.
That's one of my biggest fears. Or not fears. I might be many things. I feel like I'm never boring or forgettable. You know what I mean? And maybe that's messed up. Maybe I shouldn't prioritize that over being kind. I don't know. That's an interesting moral question. I don't know what the lesson is from this. I think we're just like talking. But
This is what happens. We're an hour and a half in. We're talking in circles. We're just making it more complicated. Maybe I'll cut that whole piece out because I don't want to be on the internet canceled.
Nobody cares enough to cancel you, Rachel. Let's be honest.
My mom will cancel me because she's listening.
All right. So we've got her out of circles. So back to our impolite question. I just mispronounced that. Back to our impolite question. Do you really think you're that smart? Do you think that you're smarter than the average person? Rachel, you're on.
I do. And it's sad. And it sounds bad, but...
Well, if you had a teacher telling you all the time when you're in grade school that you're smarter than the average bear, I don't blame you. I would probably come away with that thought too.
And I think there's a whole mixture of stuff we didn't even get into today that also factors into this. But about discipline and self-motivation and those kind of things. But it sucks because at the end of the day, maybe it's my ego still protecting me. But I do think that that's the case. But do I think that everybody thinks that about me? No. There's definitely people who think I'm dumb just dumb as fuck. And I guess that's, part of the human enigma, right? What about you?
Yeah. Okay, I was thinking about this, and I'm thinking, am I smarter than the average person? And my answer to that is yes. And that is based on some very quantifiable aspects, is that my education level is higher than the average American. My income level is higher than the average American. Not that income is necessarily a indicator of intelligence.
It reflects your ability to adapt to the world you're in.
Exactly. So I'm going to say based on the average person, yes, I believe that I am smarter than the average person. But if you were to kind of change that subset, do I think that I'm smarter than my peers? So people who make above average, who have a college education. My soul wants to say, yes, I'm so much smarter than these people. But the truth is, probably not. I don't think that my IQ is necessarily smarter than any of these people, but I think that there are ways that I do excel more than other people. And that goes back to that definition of intelligence, right? That there's many different facets of intelligence. I think that there are ways that I do perform above the pack. I'm more inquisitive than other people. I'm less deferential to leadership than other people. I'm more adventurous than other people. I'm more willing to speak my mind than other people. But some people might say then that that's a disadvantage, that makes me less intelligent because I'm less willing to conform to the norms, right? So I just think that goes to show that there's 1,000 ways that everyone can excel in different dimensions, and that intelligence is such a hard thing to quantify, and that what you're good at, just fucking take it and run with it, And that, I guess that means it comes back to that original definition of intelligence, the ability to adapt. And that's what you want to do. So what you're good at, take it and run with it. But in other words, to answer the question, do you think you're smarter than the average American? Yes. Do you think you're smarter than your peers? Unfortunately, no, I don't think that I am.
Which I don't think that's unfortunate. I think that, that's a good sign because I know you're smart, you're quick. And if that's your peers and that's the people around you, like that's good. That's a good sign that more humans are like you.
I have hope for the human condition. Just stay away from social media. And most importantly, guys, stay away from the comment section. Just stay away. That's my ending. No, that's not my ending.
I don't have any
my
advice.
Ending comment. Well, what I want to end on is one of the things that I came across in my research, one of the just little aside that people said, and I really, really like this. And it was a question of, are people dumb or is the world just really hard? And that I could get 100% behind, because I think we've shown through our conversation about all these different models, all these different types of intelligence, all these different ways that we can talk about intelligence, define it, and all the different, socioeconomic statuses and educational statuses and ways that individuals define intelligence. The world is so complicated and hard for us to all understand. And that when you come across that somebody that you think is just a giant dummy, maybe you should just think to yourself, the world is fucking hard.
Life is hard. But that keeps us in business here and talking about...
It keeps us in business.
All
yeah,
the business,
snap my fingers.
The
impolite conversations that we can all have. So there we go. That it is. That is the impolite question. Do you really think you're that smart? And Rachel and I both said yes. So what do you think,
so
guys?
far, we are fitting into the stats. But yes, tell us what you think. Wherever you can find the Impolite Society podcast.
So yeah, check us out on all of the socials. Give us a shout out.
After Laura was like, get off social media. Get off social media after you follow and like. And also, more importantly, subscribe and like us on the podcast bullshits. And that's
on the podcast player of your choice.
Because the sad thing is, we might be smarter than the average duck, but we still need positive affirmation. So, like, if nobody gives us a star, we're just gonna cancel this thing.
We're empty in ourselves. We're empty in our souls.
We're just gonna get drunk and talk to each other.
I mean, I feel like we could do that anyway. I mean, but now we're in COVID, right? So we're no longer doing our happy hours. So we're like just totally fucked. This is what we rely on. So people, please validate us. Let us know what you think in the comments, and let us rejoice in your comments and thoughts, even if it's critical. Tell us we suck. I'm good
Exactly.
with it.
If you found this and listened to this point to hear us say that we suck, I'm going to question your intelligence, first of all, and then I'm going to say, okay, duly noted. But at the same time, also, if you have a question that you want to ask that's impolite, send it to us. We'll talk to each other about it. Nothing's off the limits. We've already talked about public bathroom noises on the first episode.
Oh my God, I can't wait to talk about sex. Let's have a sex podcast. We're going to get super drunk. We're going to have a sleepover, and we're going to talk about sex,
in
baby.
person.
Let's talk about you and
so
me.
So Mom and
Let's
Dad turn
sex,
it off
baby.
because I don't know. Anyways, okay. So I think we got to wrap it up. This is our take at a...
Is singing sex baby is the signal to turn
always.
it off?
But this is our take at a shorter podcast too. No, just kidding.
Shit. Fuck.
But that's good. It was good. This was way better than the first time we had this conversation.
Yeah, way better. Well, okay. Anyway.
Mum's the word.
So subscribe, like, comment, show us support. We look forward to seeing you in our next Impolite Conversation.
See you then.